But you recall that statement that was supposedly made by Thomas Rhoades, that the gold is found in a formation that geologists would not think to look. He says, and if you can figure out what that formation is, you can follow it throughout the Uintahs from mine to mine to mine. Well, I and a friend of mine took a drive, I think it was last week before, and we're driving up a road I think that road's been there for about 30, 40 years. And I drove past this formation that was familiar to me, but I couldn't remember where I'd seen it before. Until I got to thinking about another trip that I had taken in another and much further to the east. And on an old Indian map that was probably drawn, I'm going to say 1940s, 1950s, and it was a map accompanied by a letter where one guy was writing to his brother. And apparently his brother had asked him where these things were. He had forgotten, and he had responded and was telling him where these things were. And on this map, it had one place marked off that said emeralds. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I wonder if that's the same formation, or it's the same formation. And so I and you-know-who took a drive up there, and sure enough, it's the same formation. Yet we're, 30, 40 miles away from the other one, but we're just up and over the hill from where they found the emeralds. And there were 3 of these locations, and, I had visions of going up a front end loader, because this isn't something you're going to tunnel. You already know why I said that, but my buddy, and I'm not mentioning his name because I don't want people hounding him and trying to get information out of him. He's busy enough as it is. But anyway, he notices the formation that's laying directly on top of it. And it's very similar to other formations that you and I have talked about in the past, other places not too far from there. And he says, this looks highly mineralized. And he went up and started breaking off chunks and bringing it down with me, because there's no way in hell I was going to try to walk up that hill as wobbly as I can be these days. And there was visible gold, copper, and possibly pyrite. And so he gathered up a bunch of samples and chucked them into my vehicle. I think we were left there probably 200-300 pounds heavier. And we transported them to his truck, and he took them up and had his brother run some tests on it. And there's definitely gold, definitely copper, and a few other things. And they're currently going to do some crushing and get it ready for fire assay. Now, I'm not a miner, so I don't care what they do with it. But oh hell no, we didn't have time for that. Finding emeralds is like me looking for that one luster nickel. You have to search through 65,000 nickels to find that one. So, yeah, you have to find the pockets. And in order to find that pockets, man, if you sat up there all day long just picking away at that formation, I almost let it go. you'd be lucky if you found a pocket in a week's time. And those pockets is where you find the emeralds. But I think sooner or later it's going to come out, and I think we will have the proof that the emeralds that were found on the Etosha didn't come from Panama, Colombia. They came from here. You had Antinio de Espejo. I don't know how many men he had with him because there is no written information on his second expedition. Okay, so we don't know how many people he had with him. My guess is I don't think he ever got permission from the king to go back. Okay, I think he just took off, and I would imagine he might have had 10, maybe a dozen people with him. Now, they were up there for 4 years. Well, I contacted, everybody kept directing me to, I can't remember the name of it, down in Texas, and said, ask them, you know, where they got that information. They have no idea. But it's gone down in history that he died in Cuba in 1585, but then somehow miraculously managed to sign a map in 1588. Well, not so much illegal, because I think the whole reason he was going there to begin with is because it had already been granted to his family long before. Now, whether Espejo was Spanish or not, I don't know. He could have been Portuguese, could have been French. But he was definitely carrying information from the past, because he did not go there. I don't care if he had 24 men with him. There's no way in hell he went there and created 13 mine sites, 2 vaults, and presumably 3 military cache sites. That's what's on the map. How did he do that in 4 years? Exactly, his family's patrimony. He was looking for his patrimony handed down from his ancestors. I don't think he needed the king's permission. Well, I think one of the reasons why the king never answered him is because he knew that if he did, he was acknowledging a former claim on a certain amount of property. It was just like back in the what was it, late 1800s or the early 1900s, the big case. I mean, even Pedro Jose Salazar, their claims just disappeared. Oh, gee, how coincidental that they just got caught in a fire. You know, we don't know where those mining claims were. But Salazar lost his, the Peraltas lost theirs. I think it was something along those lines. Right, they don't want to acknowledge it. I mean, this practice goes back all the way to, if not beyond, the imperial libraries of Constantinople. There was information in them libraries they didn't want anybody to know about this land. I don't know that you have been there to check it out yet, but I've showed you 2 possible mine dumps, big ones. And until we get someone down there to actually look it over, and if necessary, go into what would likely be the dump, knowing that it's probably got some deadfall on it and so forth, you've got to get down to the actual rock. And if you get down in there and you find, let's say you dig a hole, you get down in there a foot or 2 and you start running into some finely broken up rock, look for chisel marks. I'm telling you, Mother Nature didn't make those 2 hills. Yeah, all you got to do is get up there to the crossroads, take a left and go over to that one spring, and it's just across the road from that spring and up maybe 100 yards, 150 yards on the copper map. I haven't been up there in 5 years. And you know what? It wasn't any more difficult than it was 5 years ago. And I couldn't find it. Amy found it. There's so much deadfall up there now. It's just unbelievable. I was about ready. I was about ready to give up and walk back down the hill, and all of a sudden Amy yelled, "I found it!" And we went over and looked it over. Nobody's messed with it. It's all still just as we left. Oh, I didn't tell you this. We'll cover this real quick. You remember the first legitimate Spanish carving I found on a tree? The one that I peeled the bark off and gave it to a friend? Okay, remember there's a second tree. Well, the first tree was dead long before we found it. And the core samples was done twice on that tree because the first time he didn't believe it. And it was a biologist that did the core sampling. But after the second time, he couldn't very well argue with it. But that tree was just about 500 years old. The second tree is bigger than the, okay? I went to that site. We had to circumvent a couple of big snowdrifts, but we made it. And opening up my arms and wrapping them around the tree, I still wasn't halfway. This is a quaking aspen, and I'll be damned if it isn't still alive. That tree's over 500 years old. Oh, it's about ready to fall, though. It's when we originally got there, the symbol was pointing directly opposite 120 degrees. Okay? The tree is so heavy, and it's splitting down at the bottom. The tree is twisted. It no longer points in that direction. It has shifted 12 degrees. That's how far the tree has twisted. It's about ready to snap off. I'd rather wait till it died, but the problem is it's going to fall first, okay? And if it falls to where it's facing downward, there's no way we're going to get it. So I really don't want to ruin it while it's still alive. Yeah, I mean, I wish I still had the first one. I know where it is, and if he ever sees this video, it'd be very generous of him to give it back to me. That's always the problem. The only reason I was able to get out as much as we did here about a week or two ago is because of a very generous man. Well, I'll keep researching, and I'll keep finding, and I'll keep doing what I do. But you guys are going to have to find them. I just don't get around like I used to.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away, fade away, as you fade away. And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long